We try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We got to add a little addendum to the show map today. So we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. It always has been, but it's been increasing over the last 50 years since the government has been getting bigger. Hey guys, what's going on? Jebb here, and welcome back to Coffee and Crypto Live. This is your weekdaily morning show where we bring you the latest in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency technical, on-chain, and fundamental analysis. And in today's episode, we are going to be talking about the rally that was to be, the rally that was to come, the rally that was to send us through the ceiling straight to the moon. And we were hoping that it would allow us to break above $24,000. Unfortunately, the two things that have come to play over the last week, that being Gary Genslers' continued open, unapologetic war against the cryptocurrency space and today's CPI drop, have all but smothered the opportunity for that rally. Or has it? That's the question we're going to be asking today, because you see, Bitcoin has a way of going into a rally or going into a drop, even when you least expect it, even when something should have caused that market to tumble, even when something should have caused that market to crash, even when something should have caused Bitcoin to go straight to the moon. And it doesn't. Sometimes a little while later, Bitcoin just will anyway, because there's this pent-up exuberance. Whenever a missed opportunity is, well, whenever an opportunity is missed, a lot of times that will also give the bulls perhaps the information that they need to see whether or not they can go to the moon. If the bears are not able to take back control of the market when the bulls fail to go into a bull market, then sometimes that gives the bulls confidence to say, okay, wait a minute, even if we give a little bit of ground, the bears are so weak right now that they don't even have the power to take it back from us. And so then the bulls will bounce and rally and then move to the moon. Same thing with the bears at times. Sometimes the bears will move the market straight into the ground, but then something bullish will happen, or the bears will let up and the bulls won't take any of that ground, and then the bears will realize, wait a minute, we can go a lot lower, and then the people that wanted to short get very excited because right down to the pits of darkness Bitcoin goes. Today, I believe what we are seeing may just be the former, that being that Bitcoin... It's not that Bitcoin wasted an opportunity, but an opportunity was missed by the different factors that came into being here in this current market cycle. And now Bitcoin is actually going to be able to take advantage of the fact that the bears weren't able to capitalize on that bearish news. All right, sound a little complicated? It is, but we're going to dive right on into it, and I'm really excited for this stream. I'm also really excited for the next couple of weeks because, of course, I mean, our baby could be born at any time. She could still potentially come premature, but believing and hoping and praying that she will come at the right time, 37, 38 weeks. That gives us about another 6 to 8 weeks before she gets here. So there's a lot of things that I'm really looking forward to being able to get done before she comes. One of them, as we announced yesterday, is launching Club DeFi a week from yesterday. If you don't know, I announced the relaunch of Club DeFi on Monday, February the 20th. That is 2/20/2023. On that day, Club DeFi will launch in a partial state, and it will continue to have more rollouts as the rest of the year goes on. There's going to be a lot of videos being updated. There are going to be other courses added because it's going to be launching with just the subject of technical analysis, and there's a few other announcements and details that I need to go ahead and let you guys in on, but today won't be the day for that. Just stay tuned because we are going to have a launch for Club DeFi, and I am very excited about it. Quite a lot to do before that gets here, though, including reading green names. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We got Daz Meekin in chat, was the very first one, said, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Daz Meekin. Thank you so much for tuning in, Daz. We've got Oh My, said, good morning. Hope everyone has a good day. Hashtag FinSolve. Boom. We got Mike Lowry in chat as well, said, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much, Mike Lowry, for tuning in. And for moderating our chat. Thank you for keeping it all clean. Wisely T said something that I thought was really very kind. Said, Jebb, I stream your show on my morning commute so much that I ran out of data, but my billing cycle has reset and I'm back, baby. Let's go. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that glowing review of Coffee and Crypto here. We got CBD Suddy in chat, said, morning. What's up, CBD Suddy? We got Anthony Roldan, said, what's up, Jebb? How's the fam? It's doing pretty good. We're doing pretty well. We've just got a lot of work to do. There is so much work to do. We're trying to get our house in order. We're trying to get our everything ready for a baby that's coming. We're trying to, run our life and having work and pregnancy and toddler and a business and baby coming and a house and all that stuff. There's a lot going on. We got a lot of work to do. So you can be praying for us to have diligent hands and rested shoulders because there is quite a bit going on. But we are enjoying the ride. Sam Magione said, looks like crypto was first to go green and market followed. Did I see that correctly? We will talk about that here in just a second. Let me see if I can do the stream thing that I normally do and hold in a sneeze. There's so many times where you're on camera where you just have to hold in a sneeze because it's not professional to sneeze on camera. So I've taught myself to just not sneeze. Okay. All right. What happened to office hours, Jebb? Did you get stuck in the loft? Well, what happened to office hours is that I was resting because there was this thing I did yesterday. It was called going back to the gym, and I was exhausted. I was whooped, and I am very apologetic about that. I will reschedule that for some point during this week. I don't know exactly what the time will be, but I will go ahead and make sure we reschedule that. Like you guys know, 8:30 p.m. on Mondays is the time slot for office hours. That will be continuing at that time slot. I do apologize for that. And that is something that there will be more announcements on about relatively soon. That's one of the things I'm looking forward to bringing to your attention. Okay. I did not get stuck in the loft. No, I managed to come down. I didn't finish what I was doing, but I managed to come down. Dr. Fuzzy Eyeball in chat said, morning, what's up? We've got the philosopher in chat. What's up, bro? Good morning and God bless to you all. We've got a chat here that says 6.2 CPI. Where are you seeing that? Because that's one of the things that we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about the CPI. That's one of the big ones. Okay. Can you tell us why Bitcoin pumped? That's what we're going to talk about today is why we think that Bitcoin pumped. Good morning, Jebb. Happy Taco Tuesday. Justin Eubank said, hello, absolutely. Oh, the Dons from the gym, and no problem, thanks. Yeah, so I started going back to the gym, and I'm really excited. I'm going to be going 5 days a week, and I am so pumped to get my pump back because I love the gym. My wife and I were there, and one of our employees was also there, Malachi, and I am so excited to get fit again. I miss it. I miss having the energy. I miss having just the mental clarity and the motivation and everything. Really enjoying it. Everybody's talking about 6.4% CPI. Yes, we're going to talk about 6.4% CPI here in a little bit. That is going to be one of our big topics for the day. We got JoJo in chat. What's up, JoJo? Let's see if I'm missing anybody. The Classic IT guy, we got you in chat. Thank you so much. We've got Wind People said, good morning all and God bless. Good morning to you, Classic IT guy. When my baby came, I got on my hands and knees and cleaned my baseboards, lol. Yeah, there's as you can probably relate then, there is a lot to do. Queen said, Jebb getting jacked. That's the hope is to get very healthy and lean, but if I get jacked, I'm not too bothered by it. But that's kind of a long shot. We'll see. I don't know. We shall see. Anyway, enough rambling. Let's go ahead and jump into the content. Today, some very important news came out about the cryptocurrency markets, and it's not even about the cryptocurrency markets. It is about the United States and their consumers. As you will know from the fact that I've been talking about it over and over and over again for a very long time, CPI is one of the major drivers of the United States economy, and it is one of the major indexes to measure the strength of the United States economy. It is a measurement of the economy that also turns around and then drives the economy. It drives the stock market. It drives cryptocurrency. It also drives the way that the U.S. dollar interfaces with other currencies around the world in something known as the dollar currency index, and just in a real sense, the power and strength of the dollar is a very real thing. And the power and the strength of the dollar is a very important thing as well, because that is the thing that allows for people to maintain their purchasing power. There are a few different elements of an economy that are exceedingly important. You have consumption. That is the act of people buying things. That is the act of people going to the store and buying hamburger meat. That is going and buying a house. That is going and buying a car. That is going and buying a mansion or 50,000 acres of farmland if you're Bill Gates. That is the consumption side of the economy. Then you also have the production side of the economy. That is something that we don't do quite as much of here in the United States. Much of the production is overseas, should I say, offshored to other nations, a lot of them being in Southeastern Asia, some of the more middling to higher tier manufacturing being in Europe, but the vast majority of manufacturing that the manufacturing of goods that end up being sold and consumed in the United States is actually done outside of the United States, unless you're talking about something that is fixed, such as a house. Obviously, those things are built here in the United States where they stand. So there's also a couple of other areas. You have capital. You have the amount of money that is circulating in the economy. You have all the different resources in the economy. You have the amount of raw resources, the amount of strategic resources. You have the amount of human resources. How many man hours are there being used in the United States? How many men and women demographically are in the workforce? You also have, and this is another very important one that is changing rapidly, you have the investment dynamic of the American people. Last quarter 4 of 2022 was the median time where the baby boomer generation by age was going to move into retirement. At this point, over half of the baby boomers have now moved by age, maybe not by reality, but by age, into retirement age of 65. That is a huge problem because the baby boomers were the largest generation that the United States had ever witnessed at the time, and they were the engine that got this country moving in the post-war era. There was so much development, and the boomers were the ones that were doing it. Them moving into retirement changes a multitude of things. It changes the consumption dynamic because you are no longer consuming anywhere near as much as you would have been if you have a job, especially if you're in between 45 and 65, and statistically, you've probably already paid off your house, so you've got another $2,000 a month that you can use to invest or spend. Instead of all of that money coming in for income for the boomers that was then being put straight into consumption and investment, now it is being taken out of the stock market, put into T-bills, lower yield, lower risk, more highly liquid investments that you're not going to see put into the stock market, that you're not going to see put into tech, that you're certainly not going to see put into, more than likely anyway, crypto, unless you've got some very, how should you say, technologically sophisticated boomers out there. I know there are plenty of them, but the fact is that dynamic has changed quite a bit. Demographically, the United States and the rest of the world is aging very rapidly, and that is causing a lot of changes economically. Consumption is slowing down. Investment is slowing down. That's a big problem for a multitude of reasons, many of which I don't have time to get into here, but one of them is also technological innovation. You have to have a massive amount of money to do technological innovation. If you've probably noticed, there's not too many people inventing brand new technology in their garage anymore. If you're inventing new technology, you probably need a $100 million grant to really make a massive breakthrough. Nobody's going out into their garage and testing tungsten filaments and then coming up with the incandescent light bulb with themselves and 2 or 3 other dudes. You need a lot of money and a lot of investment to push forward technology. You're going to probably see a slowdown in technological advancement over the next 20 years as well as a result of this change demographically in the amount of money that is liquid. We're seeing a deliquidity crisis in the entire global markets. All of this is a backdrop upon which CPI is painting. You have to understand the macro environment to really understand what CPI is, why it's important, and how it's going to impact Bitcoin, because I want to talk today to you about the opportunity that Bitcoin had and might have missed, but maybe not as well. We'll talk about that in a second. But for now, just understand the different aspects of the economy, and there are far more than this. You have the capital, especially the main part I'm talking about here is the human capital. How many people are in the workforce? How many people are in retirement? What's that ratio look like? You're talking about working age adults that are working and contributing to the economy versus children who are not contributing to the economy as far as production anyway. Of course, they are through consumption, and that's an important part of the economy. And then you have the retirees. What's the ratio there? That is changing. That ratio is getting more in the direction of retirees, less in the direction of working age people, especially considering the United States is having less and less kids. So is the rest of the developed world. You also have the consumption. You also have the production. You also have the investment. Those dynamics are changing, and those dynamics changing are not changing in a direction that is conducive towards economic growth, but is instead conducive towards having to maintain inflation if you want to maintain the same level of prosperity economically through the measure of GDP. So, with all of that in mind, we had the pandemic come through, and now you might, and by the way, I am not somebody that ascribes to this conspiracy theory, but you might understand where people get the conspiracy theory that, oh, the pandemic came through to get rid of the old people. Again, I do not subscribe to that at all. Maybe I shouldn't even give that idea a platform, but the idea is that, like, hey, they're trying to depopulate the world for that reason demographically. The pandemic came through. Unfortunately, it did take a lot of lives that it shouldn't have, and that's a horrible thing. But it also changed the way that we look at the world because, yes, there were a lot of people that got very badly hurt. Many of those people are still, as far as talking about their cardiovascular and respiratory systems, a lot of them are still compromised in a way, and they're less, talking economically here, of course, we're going to set aside the human suffering portion, although that's the more important part. Economically, probably a little bit less productive. That changed a lot of things. During the pandemic, you also had a huge amount of money printing take place. You saw trillions of dollars of liquidity injected straight into the economy, and now that's coming through in the form of inflation. That inflation is something that we were still seeing when the Russians declared war on the Ukrainians, and now the Chinese are basically trying to declare a diplomatic war against the United States. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute as well. But the world is changing rapidly. And with the world changing rapidly the way that it is, every single nation wants to hold on to the exact same level of prosperity without the demographical makeup, without the geopolitical environment, and without the global, more or less total peace that we had seen in the 2010s. That is we're in a very different era right now than we were just 4 years ago. We have seen a global pandemic shake public confidence in leaving your own house. We have seen that shake the confidence not only in the healthcare system, but also shaken the confidence of the healthcare system. If you've noticed, it's gotten a lot different. The countries of the world are trying to maintain the exact same economic prosperity and growth year over year over year with a liquidity crisis of too much liquidity where there was too much money printed, of a demographical crisis, of a geopolitical instability crisis, of a resurgent Russia and China acting the same way they did back in, the 70s, except Russia's a little bit weaker. China's a lot stronger, and both of them are led by crazy people who are living in a cult of personality and surrounded by yes men and have never been told no once in the last 20 years. We live in a very different world, and the nations of the world in the first world are trying to continue on with their growth and prosperity the same way that they were during the 2010s, and we're in a fundamentally different era. The only way that you can try to, even by the numbers, even present to the world that you're moving forward as not as well as you were pre-pandemic is through the printing of money. And that's what we saw take place. We saw a huge amount of money printing, but it happened so quickly that it had to stop, or they were going to destroy the United States dollar. They were going to destroy the global economy. The shutdowns had to end. The printing had to stop, at least for a time, and they had to get it under control, and they had to prepare for the next crisis, because one probably will come. So that led to a lot of inflation. That inflation has gutted the American people's pockets and their ability to actually buy things. Food has gotten vastly more expensive. Gasoline is still 50 or 60% more expensive today than it was at the pre-pandemic levels. I used to buy gas at $2.25. It's $3.50 now, and that's what we consider low. It's gone up about about 20 cents over the last month. We'll talk about that in a second as well. Lots to talk about. The fact of the matter is that there is a massive change geopolitically going on before our noses, and you can probably feel it, but maybe you don't really know too much about it. And the world is trying to go on like normal. And you can only go on like normal when things aren't normal for so long before it starts becoming obvious that things have changed. With that, let's go ahead and jump into the CPI. Now, the CPI is one of the biggest driving factors of the cryptocurrency market, or at least it had been. Today, we saw CPI data come out, and we saw a 0.1% drop in the CPI. Many people, including myself, were certainly hoping that Bitcoin would be able to go through a big rally post-CPI. And funnily enough, the CPI news dropping actually has led to a small rally on Bitcoin. You can even see here, following about an hour after CPI dropped, we just inexplicably, almost an hour ago, rallied 3%. I have my theories as to why that took place, and we will talk about those in a second. But for now, let's talk about CPI, and then we're going to tie all of this into the chart. As you guys know, we've looked at CPI here. We've talked extensively about it. Major categories dropped from 6.5 to 6.4. Last month, you couldn't see that. It dropped from 6.5 down to 6.4. Last month, we saw CPI drop from 7.1 to 6.5. That was a 0.6% drop. This was a 0.1% drop. We're talking this was 18.3% the size of the last drop. For any of you who have watched this stream consistently, you'll know that I told you guys that it was very likely that you're not going to see as big of a CPI drop. Next time, it was more likely that you're going to see 0.3 to 0.5% and not 0.6%. 0.6% would really be a stretch. I honestly thought we'd see a little bit more than 0.1%, but my prediction that we were going to see a smaller drop than many people were calling for, and certainly a smaller drop than what we saw last month, was very much true. The interesting thing here is that if I remember correctly, all items, less food and energy, was actually sitting at 5.5. It's gone up to 5.6. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that was, let's just hit here, read more. I do believe that was the case. But anyway, just kind of drilling down in here, one of the things that's changed substantially is energy. You can see energy services over here with natural gas piped is still very high. So is electricity on that inflation reading. Go into energy commodities. Gasoline flipped from negative 1 point something down up to 1.5. Instead of seeing deflation in gasoline, we actually saw slight inflation. And then as predicted, we saw fuel energy commodities drop from, I believe it was around 40% down to 27.17%. This was probably the biggest driver of that 0.1% drop because frankly, the vast majority of the rest of these indices here are actually still going up. If you look at things like shelter, if you look at things like airline fare, natural gas piped, many of these things are still very high, if not even continuing to increase. Food, poultry products, eggs, that's gone up. Obviously, egg prices are through the roof. So seeing that 6.4% is not surprising. In fact, I would not be surprised at all if next month we actually saw CPI go up rather than go down as a result of the economy seemingly trying to balance itself around here. There's a couple of things that went into this. Number one, gasoline went up a little bit in price. Electricity and natural gas went up slightly. That kind of makes sense because people use electricity and they use natural gas to do what? They use it to heat their homes. And it's been a ridiculously cold month. Not in Florida. It's been balmy, to say the least, in Florida. But in the rest of the country, it had gotten pretty dang cold. It's recorded negative 105 with the wind chill on Mount Washington in the northeastern United States. That's one of the coldest readings that we've ever had in the continental 48. So people are trying to heat their homes. That's causing prices to go up. So there's a little bit of change there. But on the flip side, you're also seeing eggs go through the roof. Depending on where you live in the United States, eggs cost between $4 and $8 a dozen because of an H5N1 outbreak that caused chicken farmers and egg farmers to have to cull their entire populations. And now they're going to have to take what they're doing right now to try and get egg prices back under control and get production back up is they're having to stop the chickens from laying eggs to sell, and they're having to use the chickens to lay eggs to grow more chickens to hatch and grow more chickens. That's essentially what they're doing. That's going to take a while. You're going to see egg prices being very high for probably another 6 to 12 months. Now, those will come back down probably to $1 to $3 a dozen rather than where the rest of the market is, where it's just 17 times higher than what it was before the pandemic. But that's going to take time as well, and that's one of the things that's driving inflation. One of the main things that has caused any kind of drop in inflation right now is the used cars and trucks market. That's dropped quite substantially. I think it's down about 11% from last month, so negative 11%. That's 11% deflation. That was always going to happen because the cars and trucks market, the used cars and trucks market, is absolutely out of control, or it was. Charles Hoskinson, a year ago when he was on this channel, he talked about how he had bought some, I believe it was natural gas tanks. He's just big, giant. You've seen him before. These giant natural gas tanks he has for his ranch. And he bought them for $20,000 a piece or something. And then somebody came over and said, we'll buy them for $40,000 because of the amazing inflation that we were witnessing. So that's kind of the backdrop of what's going on. It makes sense that CPI paused, basically completely stopped its descent. And that has had an interesting impact on cryptocurrency. Again, if you'll remember, the scenario that I was painting for you is that Bitcoin was going to be sitting up at $23,500, and then CPI was going to drop 0.3 to 0.5%, continuing its march back down to hopefully 4%. And then we were going to see Bitcoin on that news break bullish and then head to the moon. It did not do that. Instead, we saw CPI come back negative 0.1%. Doesn't do a whole lot. Now, the reason that I asked the question, was Bitcoin's last shot at a February rally a failure, or was it, is because, funnily enough, and I'll just kind of tease this right now before we jump into it, despite the fact that Bitcoin just witnessed Gary Gensler basically declare an unashamed open war on the cryptocurrency space by attacking Kraken and then coming after one of the largest stablecoins in the entire industry, the third largest stablecoin, BUSD. Despite them doing that, him doing that in the same just couple of days, I believe the Kraken news came out on, was it Thursday or Friday? I think Brian Armstrong said it might be happening on Thursday, and then he actually did it on Friday. We actually found out about it on Friday. Then yesterday, we saw the news come out that the SEC was going after Binance USD. Despite that, Bitcoin still managed to hold a very important level of support. At least it has for now. And that level of support is $21,500. $21,500 is a critical level because that's the level of resistance that we set at the pre-FTX highs at 21.5. Bitcoin fell down to these levels on that bearish news, on that FUD, and it's actually managed to bounce and hold there. It's actually managed to hold at $21,500. And from there, the 0.1% drop on CPI seems to have on its own initially caused a small drop on crypto. But then, when the bulls realized that the bears weren't going to take that news and run with it and cause a new fresh low down below $21,300, it seems that the bulls took that as an opportunity. And over the course of 15 minutes, Bitcoin has rallied $500 and it's currently sitting at 22.2. So I have a theory based on what I've witnessed happen many times in the history of crypto, where it is very possible that because the bears failed to take advantage of their opportunity, perhaps the bulls are going to see that weakness and that will actually reinvigorate the bulls for another rally. Maybe. That's a possible scenario that we will talk about here in the second half of our show. But before we do, I would like to read chat a little while. We have almost 500 people watching live right now. Thank you so much for tuning in to Coffee and Crypto Live. This is your weekdaily morning show where we bring you the latest in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency technical, on-chain, and fundamental analysis. If you're enjoying today's show, why don't you go ahead and hit that like button. Let's see if we can't get up to 200 likes. I really appreciate all of you for tuning in. Willius said, no more Club DeFi, question mark. Well, you may not have been here yesterday, but I actually announced the relaunch of Club DeFi for this coming Monday. Looking forward to that. So don't worry, Club DeFi is coming back. Not in exactly the same form, but it is coming back. All right, people are talking about buying eggs for 99 cents a dozen. Yeah, them's were the days. I wasn't even born at that time, but that would have been a wonderful thing. Let's see. We got Shadrach Frost in chat. What's up, Shadrach Frost? I started driving in 1987. Gas was about 65 cents a gallon. Whew. Those were the good old days. Yeah. Wow. And cars burned gas like there was no tomorrow. That's fair. That's a good point. I started driving in, you're going to laugh at this, I started driving in 2018. And gas was probably about $2.20 or $2.30 a gallon. Now it's $3.50. Crypto Mini Bike in chat said, I remember being able to find enough change under the seat to get enough gas in the tank to get home all the way across town. There you go. Flare Staking in chat also. There we go. What's up, Flare Staking? Good to see you. And Shannon Sharp said incubate. That's what I was looking for. Matt C said, Crypto Jebb, it was the coldest record in the United States. That's what I thought. I just didn't want to come right out and say that because I wasn't totally sure. I remember paying $145 in college and thinking that was really expensive. Yeah, during the pandemic crisis when oil just, oil futures just fell through the floor, I have a picture of this. I bought gas at $1.49 a gallon. That's the cheapest I had ever seen it in my entire life. I don't even think I needed gas. I was like, you know what? I just need to, I want to be part of history. So I'm going to go buy gas at $1.49 so that one day I can show that picture to people and say, back in my day when gas was $1.49 and now it's, $17, then, yeah. Corey said, facts don't matter if they're facts, it's how you interpret them. Yep, that's true. Hopefully we'll interpret them correctly. I have no idea what the context of that statement is, by the way. I just read that completely out of context. When I started driving, gas was 97 cents a gallon. I remember when gas was $1.25 a gallon. Yep, there you go. Eggs were only like $1.25 a dozen 2 years ago, and that was in New Jersey. Jersey. Yeah, no, eggs, in fact, I don't know if I can find it quickly, but BLS actually has a chart for, is this it? I think I may have found it. Aha, I found it. BLS actually has a chart for eggs. You can see what the national average for eggs was not that long ago. back straight through the pandemic, all the way through the pandemic. Pandemic did almost nothing to these prices. And then H5N1 outbreak happened about a year ago. Eggs started going up. Eggs were almost always below $2 a dozen. They were actually cheaper from 2017 to 2021. And then they skyrocketed, and the national average as of last month was almost $5 a dozen. Well, I feel pretty lucky. We're able to get eggs for about $11.79. I think it's $11.79 for 3 dozen eggs. We have 3 dozen eggs sitting in our. Oh, I shouldn't say that. We'll get robbed. We have 3 dozen eggs sitting in our fridge, but they were like $12. It's crazy, absolutely nuts. Matt C said there's an egg mafia out there. That's the truth right there. It's called Walmart. You got to be careful going in there. That's why we do an order pickup. We don't want to go in there and get in a fight over eggs. You just drop them and run, and then Walmart will arrest us because they're worth so much. They call it grand theft. Crypto Mini Bike said, I really want to go to the Singapore airport. It's the #1 airport in the world. I heard it's more of an experience than an airport in our probably neck of the woods. I pay a walk into my backyard for eggs. There you go. That's the way you do it. Now, don't worry about eggs too much, guys. Egg prices will more than likely come down in like a year. The only problem is that you have to raise the chickens to maturity where they can start laying eggs. And to get those chickens, you have to put aside some eggs and incubate them for the sake of those chickens. It's a bit of a chicken and the egg problem. I'm sorry. That was terrible. That wasn't even a joke. That was just true. It is. It's a chicken and the egg problem. All right. So let's go ahead and jump back into short egg prices. Yes, short the egg futures here in about 6 months when the what do they call it? They call it the national herd, I think. Not the herd. Flock? What's the name for a bunch of chickens? Is it a flock of chickens? What is a group of chickens called? This is completely off topic. A brood. Short the national brood as the national brood gets bigger. All right. Alrighty. Cool. Let's go ahead and jump straight on into some technical analysis. Because as you know, we've talked about the fundamentals. Now let's talk about the technical landscape. This is what I know you guys are looking forward to. Right now, Bitcoin is trading at $22,150 and change. And the reason that that's significant is because that is well above the level of support at 21,500. It's also well above the level of support at 20,000 flat. We need to see Bitcoin hold both of those levels, but at least 20K if we're going to experience any kind of rally. So let's just get the bad news out of the way first, and that is multifaceted. This is the 4th major local high that we've seen in the bear market. 1, 2, 3, 4. Unfortunately for the strength of Bitcoin, and also in a way fortunately for it, this local high did not manage to get above this local high. If we did manage to break above $25,500, which is right in this region here, that would have led to Bitcoin being able to witness a major run that way, upwards and to the right. Breaking above that local high would have given us the ability to say, okay, we are well and truly out of the bear market now. How do we know? Because we beat the local high that happened 7 months ago. That would have been wonderful. We really need to see Bitcoin breaking above $25,500 before we can say concretely and definitively that Bitcoin has gone into a major rally. That being said, there is also an argument to be made that this is actually the 5th local high, and the other one was right here, and we did set a new local high above that. That is true. The problem is you could also argue that this was a local high above that one, and then what is that going to do? That's not going to provide a whole lot of bullishness at all because we ended up moving to the downside from there. Another thing that's a little bit bearish is that if Bitcoin does go through a small rally, even up to $23,000, but then falls over, then what you've basically done here is you've painted an ascending head and shoulders pattern would be the technical term for it. An ascending head and shoulders pattern with a trend line right there. That head and shoulders pattern, as you can see right here, would have a price target down at $18,500, which is the local high that we set right back over here when BlockFi went bankrupt and we had CPI data drop. So $18,500 is a potential correction from these levels. Now, as far as the bullish side of things, despite the fact that we saw a meteoric level of FUD come out of the Securities and Exchange Commission with Kraken having to shut down their staking program, Considering the fact that BUSD has stopped, Paxos has stopped issuing new BUSD stablecoins, effectively killing the stablecoin in the long run, which is currently holding $16 billion worth of value, and considering the FUD that is brought to the investors in cryptocurrency, and especially the investors outside of cryptocurrency that might be looking to invest in this market, somehow Bitcoin hasn't taken that big of a dive. Despite all of that, Bitcoin still only dropped just a little over $1,000, about $1,500 on all of that. Whereas the bullish report of CPI coming out ended up causing Bitcoin in grand total to rally almost $7,500, rallying almost 50%. We added $400 billion worth of value on that news, on the CPI coming out, on people being excited about Bitcoin recapturing pre-FTX highs and more, on the excitement that Bitcoin did not have to go all the way down to $13,000 as many people, including myself, were thinking was highly likely. That news put so much fire in the pants of the bulls that they were so ready to go into a rally that they absolutely exploded. This reminds me quite substantially of this rally right back over here. And we did end up going through another bout of correction because we weren't quite ready for the halving, which is still over a year away. But we did concretely define the fact that this bear market was over. This accumulation phase had come to an end. And yes, we were in whatever kind of market this was, but there was some greater level of consumer confidence. Now, keep in mind, of course, this rally that we saw here was nowhere near as big as this rally. This rally was, $10,000 and 300% tall. But if Bitcoin does manage to hold anything above 20K, then Bitcoin is very likely to continue rallying above 20K. And the other thing to keep in mind here is that Bitcoin has now gotten itself and positioned itself so nicely right above all of that wonderful, wonderful, beautiful VRVP support. It's a little bit hard to see because the Bitcoin price ticker right there is in the way, but there is not a whole lot of VPVR support at all in this region. You can see if I zoom in there a little bit, it shows up somewhat, but there's not a whole lot of VRVP support anywhere where we are right now. We are building that VRVP support, but guess where the VRVP support is? Right below us, all the way down to 18.5, all the way down to $18,500, which is where our next level of support is a huge zone of support. Why? Because the market traded back here for months, setting levels of support on levels of support on levels of support that now Bitcoin has the ability to hold and maintain moving into the future. And we are able to reap the rewards of those rallies and dips so that we can hold that as a foundational level upon which Bitcoin can blast off into the future and higher. If Bitcoin is able to hold above 18.5. If Bitcoin is able to hold especially above 20K, and yes, if Bitcoin somehow is able to hold above 21.5, and we continue on this general uptrend that we see something like right here, then we're pointing up to 25K in just the next couple of months. And if we see CPI drop by 0.1% again, and if we see the effective federal funds rate plateau, and if we see the Ukrainians looking like they're doing well, then that could end up being the catalytic event that we need to see Bitcoin rally to the upside. But let's go ahead and take a closer look at the technicals. I know you guys love it when we look at the chart. Give me a one in chat if you like it when we look at the chart. Now, let's go ahead and take a look here at let's look at the Dixie first. As you know, the dollar currency index is a remarkably important indicator for the strength of Bitcoin. The dollar currency index represents the ratio of how strong, not the ratio, but it's an index of how strong the dollar is against a basket of other world currencies, yen, pound, euro, renminbi, yuan, etc. The Dixie is negatively correlated, inversely correlated to Bitcoin. Whenever the Dixie is going up, typically Bitcoin's going down. When the Dixie is going down, typically Bitcoin is going up. And what we've seen happen relatively recently is that the Dixie had been going down for the last several months, especially post-FTX, but had a little bit of a bounce here over just the last couple of weeks. But over just the last couple of days, it seems like the Dixie may actually be going down. If the Dixie does go down on the short term, that is going to be very bullish for Bitcoin. Bitcoin had the opportunity to see the Dixie go down, S&P 500 go up, and then the CPI also give us bullishness. That breakout opportunity up here around 24K would have been wonderful. Didn't really pan out. Sometimes that doesn't happen, but Bitcoin still seems to be doing quite well. And as I said, the Dixie is plateauing. Looks like it's going down right now. As you can see, it is testing support. That's Bitcoin support level, but you can see that it's testing those same levels It was just looking over at the Dixie, you can see that we can draw a level right here. And that will show you some of the recent, not recent so much, but some of the previous. Give me 1 second here. Let's turn that off. That'll show you some of the previous highs right here that it's trying to test itself on, especially this high right here in March of 2020, right before the pandemic really took off, right as the pandemic was really taking off. If it holds above 102, great. But if it then it's going to go up, and it's probably going to make things hard for Bitcoin. But if it goes down, or if it trades sideways, that will broadly be helpful for the Bitcoin market. Now, the other thing to keep in mind on Bitcoin is the stock market. The stock market is a very big driver of the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency markets, and the S&P 500 is continuing a gradual trend to the upside. The tricky thing is, over the last, same deal, 2 weeks, we've been in a general downtrend. You can see this downtrend showing up on the SPY's line chart here that's overlaid on Bitcoin. The SPY has been gradually going down, whereas the Dixie's been gradually plateauing and staying at its levels. That has caused Bitcoin to have a difficult time moving to the upside. But if we just go and look at the SPY itself, we will be able to see that there's a very good reason why the S&P 500 is having those slight lower highs. It's because the S&P 500 is painting itself into an ascending triangle pattern. A symmetrical triangle pattern that is bullish, and that has a pattern and a price target that could potentially push the SPY all the way up to 450 points, which would not only be above its local high that it set just about a week and a half ago at 418, but it would also be above this high right here set in May 2022, this high set here in August of 22, and also these three lows set right here around the time of the beginning of the Russian invasion and special military operation in Ukraine. If the SPY is able to break concretely above that level at 418, it probably rallies almost instantaneously to 430. And if it rallies to 430 and breaks that, then it's off to the races, and you could very well see enough excitement in the stock market to drive us back to $480. The tricky thing is you have to go back to the problem that I talked about earlier, which is the fact that the boomers are moving into retirement and they're taking their money out of the stock market with them. That is going to be a very difficult environment for the SPY to just continue hitting all-time high after all-time high after all-time high every single week, because you don't have the consumer base and the investment base, more specifically for the stock market's sake, to drive that kind of appreciation in the index. Nevertheless, on the short term, that is something that you could go against the trend on, and it is very possible that the SPY can make a couple dozen point gain, even though that trend is ongoing. That is more of a longer-term macro foundational background trend that's going on, rather than something that's just going to say, no, we're shutting down this rally here and today, as Gary Genslers likes to do with cryptocurrency. So those are a couple of the factors here on Bitcoin. Another factor on Bitcoin that I want to show you has to do with Lux Algo. Let's go ahead and bring up Lux Algo. This is Lux Algo price action concepts, and here is my Lux Algo. Lux Algo is under a sell signal on the daily chart right now. Trend catcher has been flat for a couple of weeks, ever since about the end of January. Right now, we have been trying to get above Lux Algo. We've been trying to break above it. And even just during the course of this stream, we have broken above it, but now we've fallen right back below it. Lux Algo is a remarkably important technical indicator for the cryptocurrency market, not only because it's a great technical indicator, but also because so many people are using it now that I think it's actually a strong enough indicator to move the market. At this point, I think it's one of those technical indicators that you kind of have to look at, because so many people are looking at it that them looking at it and then going and making trades can manipulate the market. I'm not saying manipulate in an unethical way, but whenever you make a trade, you manipulate the market. Lux Algo has important enough levels at this point that I think it may actually be something that is starting to drive the market, those levels. In the same way that the vast majority, the mass psychology of people looking at $20,000 drives the market, same thing I think might start to be happening on a small level with Lux Algo, which is a glowing review of the indicator because it is used by so many people. Now, one of the things I do want to show you on Lux Algo as well is the fact that the EQ cloud is catching up with us and we are falling down to it. Meeting the EQ cloud is a double-edged sword, because a lot of times when you meet the EQ cloud, you're not just necessarily going to bounce off of it and then continue a rally. A lot of times you can kind of get sucked into it. And if we do, we can get sucked all the way down to the bottom of the EQ cloud, which would sit right here around $18,000. Well, where does that come from? That kind of getting sucked into the EQ cloud action. Well, essentially, if you're this bullish, as we were back in January, and then you end up turning bearish enough that you fall into the EQ cloud and the EQ cloud has enough power to pull you into it, then you run into the trap where you're nowhere near in the just crazy bullish territory that you were, but you're in this kind of middling mediocre territory, and then that's where you kind of get sucked into it because you're very high in altitude, but you've lost your engines, and for some reason your wings aren't providing you lift, and you just start to fall. That's what we don't want to happen. So we'd like to see Bitcoin hold above 21.5 because if it does, then that's great, and Bitcoin can potentially rekindle some bullish momentum and move to the upside. But if it can't, if Bitcoin cannot manage to hold above $21,500, then that's where you start to lose some of the wind in Bitcoin sails, and then it's going to be a little bit harder to get that lift back that it needs to go to the upside. Also, looking at the 4-hourly chart here, we'll be able to see that Bitcoin is now in a confirmed strong downtrend and has been for about a week, ever since about the Thursday of last week when the SEC's chairman, Gary Genslers, came after Kraken for not staking. That has caused a pretty substantial drop in the price of Bitcoin. We broke above this important uptrending level of support, and that did give us a strong sell signal here on Lux Algo, one that unfortunately is probably going to stay in effect for a while. To get above this trend catcher, we would have to see Bitcoin trading above $22,000 concretely, and we would also need to see it stay up there long enough and have enough momentum to go back into a strong buy signal. I don't see that happening on the 4-hourly chart anytime soon, especially considering the EQ cloud is so bearish. It turned bearish right when we saw this trend confirmation with the trend catcher. We've also seen the reversal zone start to move to the downside, and you just saw a lot of things reverse right here around the middle to later part of last week. We are now in the 4-hourly chart in a very strong downtrend, and it's going to take quite a bit to be able to reverse that. On the 1-hourly chart, Bitcoin is doing a lot of crazy things. It had a big rally, and now it's having a big fall. It's like Humpty Dumpty. We are seeing a strong buy signal, but frankly, I'm not all that bought into it because we saw a strong buy signal right over here. We went into a rally, tested the bottom of the reversal zone. I've seen it before, guys. I've seen this happen so many times on Lux Algo. You test the bottom of the reversal zone, but you don't manage to actually break into it, and then that's probably where a sell signal is about to come into play. I can even show you an example of that. You look at the daily chart during the accumulation phase back over here, we saw Bitcoin do the exact same thing. Buy signal, this one never was confirmed. These were never confirmed. But we saw a buy signal, pushed up barely through the EQ cloud, didn't have a lot of momentum going through it, kind of in a rising wedge in here, either got to the reversal zone or didn't quite get there, and then you fall out of it and you see a strong sell signal come right after as you fall back into the EQ cloud. Same thing happened over here. Not a very strong rally, kind of broke through the EQ cloud, not a lot of exuberance, almost got to or did get to the very bottom of the reversal zone, then boom, 2 days later, 2 candlesticks later, you see a strong sell signal. Same thing took place down here on the hourly chart. As you can see, looks almost like the exact same market, doesn't it? Buy signal, barely got through a bearish EQ cloud, tested the bottom of the reversal zone, never managed to break into it. 2, 3, 4 candlesticks later, you see a sell signal. This was not a very bullish buy signal, and you will know that if you're doing the historical market analysis. Now, I'm looking at this market, and frankly, I'm thinking a lot of the same thing. And part of the reason is because this candlestick right here is not a technically driven candlestick. This is a fundamentally driven candlestick by the price of eggs. No, I'm just kidding. The price of everything in the United States economy. This is a fundamentally a macro-driven candlestick rather than a technically driven candlestick. And this candlestick moving so fast to the upside and then falling back down so quickly doesn't exactly give me a lot of confidence. Instead, what it does is it just resets the trend catcher much higher so that if Bitcoin does drop down to 21.7 or 21.6, then you'll end up flipping into a strong sell signal, and then that could drive Bitcoin right back down here to 21.2, which is the level of support on the reversal zone that we're looking at, or 21.5, which is our price action level of support. Long and short, TLDR, enough said, is that Bitcoin on the hourly chart does not really look all that bullish. What it looks more like is a bear flag that's forming based on this drop that we saw over here. And if that is what's taking place, then that bear flag has a pretty bearish price target down close to 20K. I need to see, I really need Bitcoin to give me a lot more confidence before I say that it's not going to go to 20K. I'm not going to sit here and say it will go to 20K, but I do think that at this point in time, that is a very possible and likely scenario. Now, as I said, there is one caveat to that, and that is that despite the open war that Securities and Exchange Commissioner Gary Genslers has declared on cryptocurrency, Bitcoin is still doing quite well. It's only dropped about $1,500 despite rallying $7,500 from its local low, from its bear market lows down at $15,500. That's true. Despite the fact that CPI came back at 0.1% when many people were hoping for a slightly larger CPI drop, it still managed to go through a small rally. Might not end up holding on to that, might not end up holding above 22K, but it did still manage to go through a small rally. On top of that, looking back at the chart for a second, same thing's kind of happening over on Ethereum. We did see a pretty big bounce and rally. We did have a pretty strong confirmed buy signal at this point. We broke into the bottom of the reversal zone. Trend catcher jumped massively. EQ Cloud's going to start converging on itself in the next couple of hours if we stay up here at 1550 on ETH. And total market capitalization is still sitting above $965 billion, which is the level that we were hoping to hold based on so many other levels that we've seen in the history of the total market capitalization chart. One of the main one actually being that it was the local high that we set over here in the middle part of January. So the fact of the matter is, and this is what you can kind of take away from the stream, is that despite the background macro factors of the CPI not coming in as bullish as we would like, despite the fact that we have massively high egg prices, despite the fact that there is a seemingly a conflict between the Securities and Exchange Commission and the majority of the cryptocurrency market right now. Despite all of that, Bitcoin's holding on pretty well. It's holding on fast. And there is a possible scenario where the bulls look at the fact that the massive amount of bearishness in the market did not manage to crash the market. There is a potential scenario where the bulls look at that and say, okay, maybe that means that the bears are not able to take advantage of bearish opportunities, and so therefore we should take advantage of the bears' weakness, and the bulls could end up pushing the market to the upside. That is a possible scenario, one that I'm not quite sure the likelihood of. I do think the more likely scenario is that Bitcoin will struggle for the next week or so. I do think that it's going to struggle on price action. I think that that's kind of what I'm forced to tell you, even if it's not what I'd like to tell you. I think that is the only honest thing that I can tell you, considering just how much technically and fundamentally is against Bitcoin right now. I'd like to say that Bitcoin's just about to go to the moon, but until I see a little bit more confirmation, a little bit more trend confirmation, I'm going to have a hard time telling you for sure that Bitcoin is in an extremely bullish state. There you go. Let's go ahead and read chat. I really appreciate all of you guys tuning in. We've got 550 people. Thank you guys so very much for tuning in. I love getting to meet with you guys here on Coffee and Crypto Live every single morning. It is a great pleasure of mine. As I said, Club DeFi will be launching again this coming Monday in a highly simplified format, just so you know. We're going to be following a model much more similar to CT2A, which you guys seem to love. We had so many people just give glowing reviews of CT2A. It is a more expensive upfront payment, of course, but you get the course for basically for life. You are able to hold on to it, and you don't have to worry about the monthly subscription. It seems like you guys were not the biggest fan of the monthly subscription. I remember when we were building Club DeFi, I continually petitioned for the idea of having a monthly subscription, or you could buy the course individually. The team didn't like that idea. I still think that was the better idea, but we didn't. That isn't what ended up happening. I think ultimately what we're going to see is that you guys are going to like the one-time payment a lot more, because you don't have to sit there and say, oh, I have to pay every single month for this. That sucks. I want to buy it and learn it and have it as mine, right? That's kind of the way that I think information should be. At one point in the future, when we have like 10 courses then, and with this whole big catalog, then sure, maybe we'll come back with, you can get it all for a certain subscription. That might happen 5 years from now. It's a long time in the future, because eventually you do get to the point where a SaaS model, a subscription as a service model, that being the subscription model, makes more sense. But for now, I think the one-time payment model, I think you guys are going to like it a lot more. And I'm really excited for it. As I said, Subject of Technical Analysis will be coming out Monday. That will basically be the official relaunch of Club DeFi. It will be a one-time payment. I'm not disclosing the price yet, but I will go ahead and let you guys know on launch day. It has 62 videos in it. I am going to be working over the next couple of months to reshoot about 10, 15, maybe about 18 videos in Club DeFi. I want to go through and reshoot, remake some of that content. But from there, then the course will be pretty much complete. And then I'll move on to continue working on a couple of other ancillary courses. We've got a subject of trading to create. We've got a subject of on-chain analysis to create. And I've also got an idea, and this one's going to be the one that'll take the longest. I have a subject of investing to create that I think you guys would really enjoy. But there's a lot of different content that we're going to put in Club DeFi. Cannot wait to bring it to you. And as we're working on Club DeFi, I'm also going to be using a lot of those editing skills that I'll be bringing back to my own mind to, you guessed it, work on more content for the YouTube channel, more edited content. And I'm really excited to see how that pans out. I'm really, really, really excited to see how that pans out. Cannot wait. Okay. Eggs, nature's vitamin. Yes, eggs are so good. Eggs are so good for you. Preach, Pastor Jebb. Thank you, Queen. Truth will set you free. Freedom, Peter Birdsall. All right. Don't be blockchained to the... What? Not sure I follow. Not sure I follow. I think there's some trolling in chat. Maybe I just fell for some trolling. All right. By the way, guys, if you're enjoying Lux Algo, because Lux Algo is a really great technical indicator, you should definitely sign up for it. You can use the link in the description box down below and use the coupon code Jebb, J-E-B-B, for 20% off at checkout. Be very, very appreciative for that. And you guys will be getting access to a great, great, great indicator. Okay. Let's read some more chat. A group of chickens is called the Defense Department. Yeah, you know, there's a lot of controversy with the Defense Department right now about not shooting down that balloon as soon as it entered U.S. airspace. The very interesting story there. Very story. Meek Kevin had mentioned that the used car market was actually up in the past month, but CPI said it was down. Think that might affect the market in any way. The used car market is one that is very complicated because it depends on where you are. It's a it has a lot of variability based on region, a lot of variability based on make, model, and year. It has a lot of variability based on basically what time of day you buy a car. It is a very complicated market. So depending on where you measure it, it's going to change the CPI measurement a lot. So it could be down on CPI and it could be up in other markets. It's really not one I look at too much because it's one that is so variable. So variable. Let's see. Y'all going to see nightmares if you keep talking about eggs. All dreaming eggs soon. Poor eggs. We need some eggs in our life. Oh, I felt terrible. We bought some groceries the other day, and I left some eggs in the backseat of our car, and they went bad. And I felt terrible. I let a dozen eggs go bad. That's like, you know what that's like? That's like having a gold ingot, and then you just you bring it with you because it's valuable and you just want to keep it with you, and then you just leave it somewhere. Like, oh yeah, I left it in the park, and it fell into the pond, and now it's gone forever. Like, it's just felt terrible. Oh man, get chickens. That is a good idea to get chickens. That is a good idea to get chickens. And by the way, happy Valentine's Day to everybody. This is a very special day for me because this marks 1 year to the day since I proposed to my wife. You guys might not know that. I proposed to her on Valentine's Day, and we got married on March 5th. So our 1 year anniversary is coming up of our wedding. We got married in 90 days. Our first date was December 5th, and we got married on March 5th. When you know, you know. She's the one. I love her. She's over there, like, blushing. Happy Valentine's Day, baby. All right. Chickens are the new Bitcoin. Yeah, buy yourself a chicken. There you go. Let's see. Smart, that way you don't forget. No, I tend not to forget days like that. I'm not gonna say I'm good at that because there's a lot of things I'm not very good at when it comes to just being a person, but I tend not to forget dates like that. Marriage is the best thing a man can do. After following the Lord Jesus Christ, I'd say, yeah, that's probably accurate. Has been in my life for sure. I mean, I suppose you really need to. I guess there are some people that aren't supposed to get married, like Paul wasn't supposed to get married. But I think most men, the best thing you can do is marry a wonderful woman. Chicken is the new DeFi. There you go. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to go have to... Let's try that again. I'm going to go ahead and have to wrap it out because we've got a long day ahead of us. But as I said, there is more content coming to the channel over the next couple of months. I can't promise anything right now, but Club DeFi will be launching on Monday. That's kind of the first step that we're taking. And then when that launches, I'm going to be working on updating some of the course videos in there and then getting that really exactly where I want it. And then we're going to have a wonderful time just bringing even more content to you guys here on YouTube. I'm really, really excited for this next season in our life, and I just cannot wait to see you guys grow in your knowledge of cryptocurrency and hopefully in your investments as well. We are going to have to go, but before I go, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.